Starting off this countdown, we have Phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria is a point-and-click adventure horror game that was released in 1995 by Sierra Online. The game follows the story of a woman named Adrienne Delaney. She's a writer who moves into a remote mansion and later falls victim to supernatural forces. This game was banned for a number of reasons. Number one, it consists of a number of very gory, violent scenes. In one scene, a man gets bludgeoned to death. In another scene, a pendulum cuts a woman's head in half. The most controversial scene, though, was a scene where Adrienne gets taken advantage of by a man possessed by a demon. It's really messed up. Before the game was even released, CompUSA, the nation's largest discount computer retailer, told Sierra that they would not stock the game. Sierra responded by saying they would include a password-protected censoring option within the game to, tone down the graphic content. CompUSA was still not on board with this. Then, when the game was released, it was banned and made illegal in Australia. In our fourth spot, we have the Blue Whale Challenge. So this is an online game that kind of reminds me of the movie Nerve. Now, I say game with quotes because this should not be considered a game at all. Basically, it consists of a bunch of players doing real-life challenges. They have to record themselves completing these challenges in order to get a step closer to winning the game. Now, it starts off small, so you think it's all good and dandy, like maybe you'll get dared to watch a scary movie by yourself, or smoke or sneak out your house in the middle of the night. But as you progress through the game, the dares intensify. You'll be asked to harm yourself. One of the tasks is to carve a picture of a blue whale into your arm with a knife. The final challenge is the most deadly. It asks the players to take their own lives. Now you may be thinking, wow, who would actually do that? But guess what? Worldwide, this game has influenced 200 players to kill themselves. The game is called Blue Whale because it goes with the concept of blue whales beaching themselves deliberately in order to die. The game is crazy, and obviously as a result of its risk, it's illegal to play in multiple countries such as Russia and India, where the death toll from this game was super high. In our third spot, we have Active Shooter. Just by the title of this game, you know it was highly controversial and problematic. I'm sure you can guess what it's about. Basically, you play as a school shooter, roaming around a school killing students and teachers. Thankfully, it was banned before it even got released. A number of school shooting survivors band together to stop the launch of this game. They managed to garner over 200,000 signatures. As a result, Steam pulled the game from their platform. Concerned parents and survivors were horrified. This game promoted violence and glorified killing. Now, the developer of this game came forward and said it shouldn't be taken seriously, and if people find the tendency to kill, then to reach out for help. Turns out that one of the men working on the game was, and I quote, a troll with a history of customer abuse, publishing copyrighted material, and user review manipulation. So he was fired after he tried to push this game. In our second spot, we have Blank Lay. I just want to preface this next point with a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about some very serious subject matters. So this game is not actually called Blank Lay. I just censored myself because we can't say the word on YouTube for obvious reasons. So this game was released in 2006 and was highly controversial from the start. Basically, you play as a sex offender and you're tasked with going around and stalking women and then taking advantage of them by force against their will. Enough said. It's highly disturbing. After the player manages to successfully get at all three women, they unlock free play mode, and it's just super messed up. Like it seems like a reward for doing this. There's also several disturbing alternate endings. One of the endings, you impregnate one of the girls, and then you get killed days later by falling onto the train tracks and getting hit by a train. Or the second ending is, if you use a certain sexual position on one of the girls, she will end up breaking free and stabbing you to death. As a result of this very graphic and disturbing subject matter, this game was banned in multiple countries. It's also illegal to sell this game in Argentina, Indonesia, and New Zealand. And in our number one spot, we have Sad Satan. If you're a fan of horror games, then chances are you've heard about this game, and then the weird legend that's associated with it. So back in June of 2015, a YouTuber named Jamie from Obscure Horror Corner uploaded gameplay footage of him playing this game. According to him, he was sent a link to this game from a subscriber who found the game on the dark web. The game is a walking simulator. You just walk through this weird maze-like environment. Sometimes disturbing images flash across the screen, and the sound effects and dark atmosphere make it very unnerving. But apparently, this isn't even the real version of the game. Later, the subscriber who sent Jamie the link said there's more to this game and posted the true link to the game. This version, though, was very, very graphic. It showed real-life gory images like pictures of dead people from crime scenes or involving just really dark and NSFW pictures that are actually from the dark web. Some say that the game is too much for themselves and their computer. Their computer ends up crashing as a result. Some who have played the game have claimed to feel dizzy and have gotten sick by it. Others claim that they would have dreams about them wandering through that same hallway. And then some people have reported that in their version of the game, when their character is attacked and their character's health lowers, their health in real life lowers as well. Now, the last part is probably not true, and that's part of the legend behind it, but who knows? Either way, no one should ever play the true Sad Satan game. Starting off this countdown, we have Dead Rising. The entire Dead Rising series is banned in Germany for the game's highly graphic, violent, and gory scenes. So this game is an action-adventure survival horror game. In the first game, you play as Frank West, a photojournalist that is trapped in a shopping mall while his town faces a zombie outbreak. You then have to survive and rescue survivors along the way. Throughout the game, there are scenes where you shoot zombies or chop them up with a lawnmower. You see limbs flying everywhere, and in one part, cannibal corpses are shown. So, Dead Rising was banned in Germany because it depicts violence in a public mall setting, and because of its gory violence. Dead Rising 2 and 3 were banned for the high-impact gory violence. Now, Germany is pretty strong on its video game ban. In fact, some companies adapt their games so that it's not banned in Germany. They do things such as showing green blood instead of red, so it appears less gory. In our fourth spot, we have Hotel 626. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when this game was a thing, it was incredible. It was filled with suspense, mystery, and eeriness. In fact, it was created as a marketing campaign for Doritos. It was genius. It was created since they were bringing back the black pepper jack and smoke and cheddar BBQ flavor back from the dead. Now, in order to play the game, you had to go on hotel626.com. You could only play the game from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. That's why it was named 626. Anyways, for this game, you would wake up in a random bed at 2 a.m. The objective was then to escape this haunted hotel. But along the way, you encounter some terrifying inhabitants. What was sick is that the game incorporated your webcam and microphone. You would get to use them throughout the game. Sadly, this game is no longer available. Why? Well, two main reasons. For starters, it was banned in one country for apparently causing a heart attack. Yeah, this game was so scary that someone apparently got a heart attack from it and died. The other reason, well, Doritos didn't want to pay for the domain anymore and they just let it expire. So, it's sad. It was actually a fun little quick mystery game to play. With that being said, it was not recommended for people with heart conditions, for the reason previously mentioned. Doritos needs to bring back the game though, no matter how many Karens deem it as dangerous. Coming in at number 3, we have the Crossroads game. Unlike the other games on this list, this one is not a video game. It's a real-life game that was once popular in Japan. This game goes by many names. Sometimes it's called the Crossroads game. Other times it's called the Fortune game. So basically, this game is said to tell you your fortune. To do so, you need to follow the game's instructions very carefully. You need a comb, something to hide your face with, and a crossroads, an intersection with 2 or more roads. At night, you go to the crossroads and stand near the corner. You then stroke the comb so it makes a noise and repeat this. Sugiura, grant me a true response. Then you have to hide your face and you just wait. if you did everything correctly, someone will approach you. Do not reveal your face to them at any time though. I cannot stress that enough. When they approach you, you ask them for your fortune. They should tell you it. Sadly, you might not always receive the answers that you're looking for. Apparently, a number of people in Japan have taken their lives playing this game after receiving a bad fortune. This has resulted in its ban in Japan. Apparently, the person you are summoning is not alive, and that's how they know your fortune. People that have ended up revealing their face to the dead person have been haunted by other spirits. They have reported seeing eerie shadows, which is why you need to hide your face. Honestly, there's just way too much cons to this game. Just don't play it. In our second spot, we have Replus Natus, which is Satan's helper backwards. And you know, that says a lot about this game already. Now, with this game comes a scary urban legend. Legend goes that a little girl haunts the Replus Natus website. So this girl got bullied her whole life. Later, she was killed by her father. The legend continues on by saying one night a storm knocked down a phone pole that was located over her grave. Shortly after, this website mysteriously appeared online. Now it's said that you can only enter the site at midnight. If you try to go on at any other time, a box will appear where you put your email address in. Then you'll receive an audio message from the girl that tells you to come back at midnight to play. So if you do enter the website at midnight, you'll see scary pictures of the dead girl, and she will ask you to play the game with her. You then have to sift through the website, clicking on various pictures and clues, while creepy things can be heard. Once you successfully complete the game, a box will appear where you can type in your enemy's name. The girl will then get revenge on that person. But, you know, there's just one tiny little catch. By her getting revenge on your enemy, you agree for her to haunt you in your dreams every night until you die, or until you're driven to insanity. Doesn't that sound great? Now, this is an actual website. Whether it's actually haunted, well, that's up for you to decide. Apparently though, the website that is currently up is not the original. The original one is banned and only can be found in the depths of the dark web. Now, if you want to take this game to the next level, you can apparently also summon her in the mirror, kind of like Bloody Mary. So what you do is write Replus Natus backwards on the mirror 6 times. This has to be done in a bathroom that is dark and only lit by a single candle. Then you have to blow out the candle and apparently the mirror will crack. When you relight the candle, you will see her. A little girl with a red mark on her face standing directly behind you in the mirror's reflection. Only catch, she'll try to kill you. But if you close your eyes and blow out the candle fast, then she will be gone. I mean, I'm not testing it out to see if it's true or not. Do you guys believe in ghosts? Let me know in the comments below. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Manhunt. Several games in the Manhunt franchise have been banned for a number of reasons. In fact, this series is often considered as one of the most violent video game series of all times. The game's extremely graphic and violent gameplay has resulted in its ban in Australia, Italy, and Ireland, among other places. So this is a survival horror game that follows a man named James Early Cash, a death row prisoner. James is forced to participate in a series of snuff films for a sadistic filmmaker. The only way James can survive and get freedom is by murdering people sent to kill him. Yikes. In fact, the game has one difficulty called Hardcore. On this difficulty, players are told to brutally murder people. The more brutal the murder, the more points they get. Obviously, it was banned because of the over-the-top, blood-soaked murders. But also, it was banned in the UK for another reason. In 2004, a real-life murder case was blamed on this game. Apparently, the killer was obsessed with this game, and some people think that the game inspired him to kill his victim. Now, Manhunt 2 is banned in more countries than the first game, because it was even more messed up and gory. It was banned in Germany, Ireland, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, and South Korea. Starting off this countdown, we have Rule of Rose. Rule of Rose is said to be one of the rarest and most expensive PS2 games. Rare because it's not available on any digital or streaming platforms, and also because they made limited physical copies. People are selling these copies online for like over $400. It's crazy. But anyways, this game has been banned in some countries like Germany and Italy for its disturbing themes. So basically, this game is a survival horror game that was released in 2006. The game is set in the 1930s and tells the story of a young woman named Jennifer, whose parents were killed in an airship accident. As a result, she is placed in an orphanage, but there's this group of children there that constantly torment her. Well, this game was banned for its disturbing themes involving children. There was this whole controversy surrounding this game when it was released. People were like, oh, this game is sick, the purpose is to beat up and kill young people, even though that was untrue. But it was enough to get it banned in the UK. But I read the comments in my past video and some of you have played this game, so how did you find it? Let me know in the comments below. In our 4th spot, we have Devotion. If you guys are liking this video so far, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Devotion is a 2019 psychological horror game. In this first-person game, you play the role of screenwriter Du Fengyu as you investigate a creepy supernatural mystery involving his family. The game was known to have some pretty unnerving moments. But a week after its release, it got banned by the Chinese government. Apparently, the game contained an Easter egg comparing President Xi Jinping to Winnie the Pooh. It had a gag poster that said Xi Jinping, Winnie the Pooh, moron. The game developers Red Candle Games issued an apology for its, and I quote, severe art material mistake. But the Chinese government did not accept the apology right away. In fact, it was even removed from Steam following this controversy. And the company announced it's probably never going to make a return. In fact, the Chinese government made it illegal to play this game. Now, apparently Red Candle Games tweeted out saying the game was going to be available on the developer's site, but eventually they decided not to. They said they received many messages from outraged gamers, which led them to not list the game in the store after all. In our 3rd spot, we have Death Race. Death Race was a popular arcade driving game that was released by Exidy in 1976. Basically, the objective is to run down these humanoid creatures called gremlins to gain points. When you hit them, they scream and then their dead body becomes a tombstone. It was a multiplayer or single-player game that was found in arcades, restaurants, and bars. But soon, this game was the subject of many controversies. An article was released saying that the game was causing people to become violent. As a result, amusement parks started removing this game from their arcades, and restaurant owners stopped renting it. But this didn't stop Exidy. They still kept moving their game around the states, in whatever region the game wasn't banned in. Until, you know, it was just eventually banned altogether and no one wanted the game. Seriously though, if they thought that game was bad, like little did they know how dark games would be in the future. In our 2nd spot, we have Condemned. Condemned is a horror series game that ended up getting banned in Germany. In this game, you play as SCU agent Ethan Thomas, who is on the run after being blamed for the death of 2 police officers. Basically, a serial killer known as Serial X used his gun to shoot the officers and then blamed Ethan for their deaths. So then you have to go on to find the killer and prove your innocence. The game was banned for its depictions of, and I quote, cruel or otherwise inhuman acts of violence against human beings in a manner which expresses a glorification. In the game, there is also a lot of violence. You can crack people's skulls open with pipes, and the murders are often very gory. There are even complaints about the game's sound design. There's just a lot of disturbing squishing noises and bone snapping and screaming. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Blind Maiden game. If there's one game on this list that I highly recommend you do not play, it's this one, okay? Do not play. So this game comes with a creepy backstory. Legend goes that there's a website out there called blindmaiden.com. and it's haunted by a woman with no eyes. It can only be accessed at exactly midnight, but in order to get into the website you have to be alone in your room with the lights off. If you meet this criteria, then you will be allowed to access the site, which you really don't want to go on. Apparently, this website is filled with disturbing images of boys and girls with distorted faces and their eyes plucked out. You also have to be very careful on this website so that you don't click anything by accident. Apparently, people have suffered from clicking things they shouldn't have, whatever that means. So on the website, you will have two options. While you're on there browsing, a notification will pop up saying accept or decline. If you accept, then the footage on your screen will change, and you'll then see live footage of someone approaching your house. This person will enter your house, and you'll see it approach you. But if you turn around, then the blind maiden will attack you, rip your eyes out, and then take your picture. Your photo will then be uploaded onto the website, and you'll be a part of the website's disturbing collection of eyeless victims. Now, if you choose the other option, decline, then you will be safe from the maiden and you will no longer have access to the site. Good luck finding the real Blind Maiden website though, because apparently it can only be accessed through the dark web. And I don't understand how this is considered a game, but it is. Starting off this countdown, we have the Dead Island series. Dead Island is a 2011 survival horror video game. In this game, you have to survive in a zombie-infested world. Basically, 4 playable characters find out that the majority of the population has been infected by this plague. As a result, people are now these zombie-like flesh-eating creatures. The 4 characters, though, are not infected, and you have to find a way to survive and escape off of an island. Now, let's talk about the fun part. Why did it get banned? Well, you end up killing these zombies in pretty gruesome ways. Like you can run them over or stab them or smash them with baseball bats, you get it, okay? Of course, when this happens, there's a lot of blood and gore. Not only that, but severed body parts can be seen scattered across the island. You can also dismember the zombies, and in one scene you even see a kiddie pool full of blood. In another, you have to rescue a woman that's about to be sacrificed by her tribe. As a result, Dead Island was put on List B for Germany. List B is for games that contain extreme torture or other dark content. With that rating, it makes it illegal for stores in Germany to sell this game. Even shipments heading into the country are seized at customs. It was also banned in Australia as well. Coming in at number 4, we have Bully. This is a 2006 action-adventure video game that was developed by Rockstar Vancouver. For this game, you play as a student named James or Jimmy Hopkins, a mischievous schoolboy who got expelled from every school he's ever attended. As a result, he gets enrolled in Bulworth Academy. The story then revolves around him as he tries to become more popular in this school, while taking on liars and cheats and bullies. Now, this game came with a lot of controversy, especially from parents and educators. They claimed that the game promoted bullying and violence in school. In fact, a lawsuit was filed in an attempt to have the game blocked from store shelves in Florida. They claimed that this game would give a rise to school shootings. In fact, they referred to it as, and I quote, a Columbine simulator. Another point of concern was the sexuality present in the game. I mean, there are a bunch of missions you have to complete, and if you succeed, you get a kiss from a girl. You're also allowed to make out with girls to receive health bonuses. You also have the choice to kiss certain boys, and people were not happy about that. So it was banned in places that don't want to promote homosexual content. Other sexual themes involve a gym teacher who apparently hits on the young students, and there's also an adult store in town called Come Hither. Yeah, very punny. As a result, this game was banned in Brazil. They said it was potentially harmful to teens. They also said that anyone caught selling or owning the game will be fined. In our third spot, we have Left 4 Dead. This game was talked about a lot in the comment sections of the past parts of this video, so I decided to include it on the list for you all. This is a first-person zombie survival shooter game. The game takes place in Pennsylvania. There's an outbreak of a virus known as the green flu. It's highly contagious and turns people into these wild zombie-like creatures. You and the other survivors then have to reach the safe house while killing a bunch of these zombie creatures along the way. Now you have a choice to use a number of different weapons to do the deed. On top of that, the more risks you take while playing, the more points you'll get. Meaning, you're penalized if you stall for too long or if you take a safe route. Players that take the riskier paths and act fast will be rewarded. And of course, since you're killing zombies, there's gonna be gore and violence, which is why it got banned in Australia. In fact, the game is filled with blood spray and splatter, decapitations, and limb dismemberments. You can also cause people's intestines to spill out of their wounds. How great. The game was also banned in Germany for the same reasons. I believe you now can play the game in Australia, but that's because they heavily censored it. Like, they took out all the dismemberment parts and turned the blood color to green. In our second spot, we have Postal. A lot of you wanted me to put this game on my next list, so here it is. The Postal series is said to be one of the most controversial video game franchises in the history of gaming. I mean, it must be pretty bad to gain a title like that. Now, the one I want to talk about today is Postal 2. The second game in the series is the one that received the most backlash. So this is a 2003 first-person shooter game developed by Running with Scissors. I mean, the fact that that's the company's name, I mean, it says a lot. Anyways, the game follows the life of the Postal Dude. He is in charge of doing a number of mundane tasks throughout the game's week, like you gotta get milk or eggs or confess sins. You as the player can pick how he reacts to different situations. You can either be passive or super violent. If you choose the more violent option, you can do things like dismember random people or light them on fire. And at one point you're given the task to get treatment for gonorrhea after the dude discovers he's got an infection. But that task is only activated though when you choose him to urinate. Yeah, that's an option as well. Anyways, it's pretty weird to say the least. In the game, the Postal Dude gets mugged and attacked. He also encounters a cult, butcher shop workers that like to feast on human flesh, and you also encounter terrorists. The violence and gore present in this game upset many, and is why it got banned in multiple countries. So in 2004, New Zealand banned Postal 2 for, I quote, gross abhorrent content, urination, high impact violence, graphic vomiting, animal cruelty, homophobia, racial, ethnic stereotypes, etc. In fact, New Zealand went as far as to fining and arresting people who owned the game. The fine was $1,400, which is pretty intense for owning a video game. The game was also banned in Germany, France, and temporarily in Sweden. And in our number one spot today we have Harvester. Back in the 90s, this game was considered one of the most disgusting games ever created. It was also believed to promote violence, and some argued that this game would create serial killers. With that being said, let's discuss what this game is about. Basically, it's about a character named Steve Mason. He wakes up in some town and has no memory of who he is. Even in his own home, he doesn't recognize his mom or younger brother. But they both are acting weird. Like, his mom is obsessively baking dozens of cookies for a charity event that's a week away. And his brother is watching some weird violent cowboy show that seems to be the only program on TV. As you go on throughout the game, Steve tries to piece together who he is and what the heck is going on in the town. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, wrong. There are some severely messed up scenes in this game. Like when a bunch of children eat their mother, and she enjoys as they're doing it. Or the scene when two characters get it on, and only for the woman's father to be creepily watching you do it through a hole in the wall. And he also enjoys this. Ugh. Then you also have the fact that you can die from an STD in this game, and there's a lot of innuendos as well. Then in the game's final scene, you brutally kill everyone that you encounter with a bunch of different weapons. Because of all this and more, the game was banned in Germany and Australia. It was also banned in the UK, but then they just heavily censored most of the game, and then that's the only version you're allowed to play there.
Kicking us off at number 5, we have Devotion. When this game was first released, a lot of folks were claiming it was the next big thing in horror. Some compared it to the unfortunately cancelled PT, saying that the atmosphere and exploration elements put it among the scariest out there. Developed by Red Candle Games out of Taiwan, Devotion is a scary, thoughtful game about exploring the home of a family under the power of a religious cult. You play the role of a screenwriter who has fallen on hard times. As his family finds it harder and harder to make ends meet, he turns to the teachings of a cult leader who says he can cure his sick daughter. This leads to a deep obsession with the cult, prompting the father to perform many sickening deeds as the family spirals into darkness. It's an unsettling story made scarier by the atmospheric gameplay. However, none of the actual scary stuff is the reason behind the ban. Devotion was pulled from Steam after players found a political joke mocking Xi Jinping. Infamously known as the Art Asset Incident, this little joke caused immeasurable harm to the developer. There was a hidden poster in the apartment that reads, "Xi Jinping, Winnie the Pooh moron." If you're aware of Xi Jinping's absolute power in China, you'll understand why this was such a big deal. As Red Candle was based in Taiwan, where they were nominally outside of the reach of China's regulatory bodies, not much could happen to them. But Devotion's Chinese publisher, IndieVent, was not. After a review bombing campaign by Chinese gamers who found the poster, the publisher had their business license revoked for engaging in illegal activities that endanger national security, social, and public interest. So while the game itself is scary, it's not quite as frightening as speaking ill of the Paramount leader. Coming in at number 4, Phantasmagoria. This point-and-click adventure game was revolutionary when it first came out. 7 discs, filmed in a multi-million-dollar blue-screen studio with a Hollywood director. It was pretty nuts, at least technically. Full motion video, live-action actors, the whole 9 yards. We follow Adrian, who moves into a mansion with her ponytailed husband and is haunted by the spirits within. As it turns out, the house was once inhabited by Carno, a serial wife-murdering lunatic. This, of course, leads to a whole bunch of flashbacks in which we discover details about all of the domestic violence. The kills range from being stabbed in the mouth with a trowel and filled with dirt to a full-on head-twisting torture machine. Most of the gameplay wasn't any more offensive than a gory B-movie, but of course, because it was a video game, there had to be hell to pay. Granted, it was on the gory side for a lot of games when it was released. Some folks even called it one of the bloodiest games ever at that point. But the major controversy really boiled down to a scene in which some non-consensual activities took place. For this, major retailer CompUSA refused to stock it, religious organizations and politicians decried it, and Phantasmagoria was even refused classification in Australia. I suppose there aren't many surprises there, to be honest. While it pushed the envelope at the time, I wouldn't say it deserved all the bad press it got. Gory, creepy, and pretty corny too, Phantasmagoria is definitely a relic of its time, but hey, people have got to get mad at something, right? Coming in at number 3, Manhunt 2. The follow-up to Rockstar's controversial Manhunt, this is a game that was doomed to be sewered by uptight and puritanical people the world over. While it is full of brutal violence, most of the public outcry stems from an incident relating to the first game in the duo. In 2004, there was a murder case in which Manhunt was presented as evidence. A 14-year-old boy was beaten to death and the game was blamed. The argument did not hold up in court, but folks who were involved with or following the case seemed to believe that there was a direct correlation with Manhunt and the violent actions of a disturbed teenager. Back to Manhunt 2 though. Right out the gate, this murder simulator received banned and ratings refusals across the board. Germany, Ireland, Italy, Malaysia, New Zealand, Australia, South Korea, the UK, all sorts. Even in the land of the free, America, Manhunt 2 claimed an adults only rating from the ESRB. Well deserved too, I suppose, as the game does feature excessive gore and high impact violence. One of the game's key features involves using stealth to perform over-the-top executions on the poor suckers that might get in your way. For this, the British Board of Film Classifications rejected it outright. The board cited an unrelenting focus on brutal slaying, casual sadism, unremitting bleakness, and a constant encouragement of visceral killing. Sounds like a good time all around, but hey, Britain's also got football hooligans to worry about. I can't blame them for trying to keep the violence at a minimum. The ban meant that Manhunt 2 couldn't be legally supplied anywhere in the UK. Truly an illegal horror game. But don't come at me with that Manhunt isn't horror nonsense, alright? It's literally an interactive slasher. Daniel Lamb and Leo Casper, baby. Coming in at number 2, we've got Active Shooter. This game wasn't even able to make it to digital store shelves, and it's no surprise either. In a world where it seems like there's a new mass shooting every couple weeks, creating a video game where you play as the lone gunman probably wasn't the brightest PR decision. Granted, you can choose between playing as a SWAT team member responding to the shooting as well, but you can probably foresee some issues with the concept itself. Once made public, the game was intensely critiqued, especially by those who had been affected by the Parkland shootings. Something like this is insensitive to the students and families, and really seems like a game only meant to shock and horrify. The game itself is nothing special, published by a man who has a long history of misbehavior on the Steam platform. It appears that the person behind Revived Games is well known for being a troll with a history of customer abuse, publishing copyrighted material, and user review manipulation. In all likelihood, this person was just trying to get this kind of outraged reaction from the public. Their plan worked, but also the game is now permanently off of Steam. And finally at number 1. Assault Day. Yeah, the title isn't really Assault Day. It's a little less politically correct. Investigate at your own risk. This is another instance of a developer making something for the sole purpose of being controversial. Published by indie developer Jake Roberts, it was later revealed that this was apparently an alias for US Air Force official Mikhail Randolph Upjohn. It's a visual novel taking place during a zombie apocalypse. The player controls a menacing serial killer as they make their way through the rapidly deteriorating world. However, survival and teamwork aren't really on the main character's mind. No. In Assault Day, the assault and abuse of women is encouraged to progress the plot. Dialogue and action options are presented, most of which involve the exploitation of female NPCs. Upon hearing about the gameplay elements, people scrambled to have it removed from any and all platforms ahead of its time. Well, it was indeed pulled from digital marketplaces that didn't prevent the game from being downloaded. According to Upjohn, it was too late to ban the game as copies had already been distributed. And of course, nothing ever really disappears from the internet. In the meantime, many organizations are doing their best to prevent further spread of the game. In South Africa, there are online monitors being tasked with constantly checking platforms that could potentially distribute the game in the future.